Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today, we're diving into the world of investigative journalism, and we've got a real-life mystery on our hands.
That's intriguing.
It is. So we've got a stack of research notes, articles, even some firsthand accounts, all about the disappearance of a journalist named Emma Fisher.
Wow. A missing journalist. That's always a cause for concern.
Yeah. And the more we dig into this, the more unsettling it gets.
I can imagine investigative journalists often operate in a world where they're uncovering uncomfortable truths, things that some powerful people would rather keep buried.
Exactly. So let's start with the basics. What do we know about Emma's disappearance?
Well, the first sign that something was wrong was the silence.
The silence.
Yeah. Emma's close friend and fellow journalist Mark noticed that she had completely dropped off the grid. No calls, no texts, nothing. And that was completely out of character for her.
So Mark, being a journalist himself, he started digging right.
Absolutely. He went to her apartment hoping to find her safe and sound. But the apartment was empty. No sign of Emma. Her car was gone. It was like she had vanished.
Okay, so at this point, it's clear that something's seriously wrong. This isn't just someone forgetting to charge their phone.
Exactly. This is when the alarm bells really start ringing.
So Mark starts asking around, checking their usual haunts. Maybe someone saw something.
And he goes to their favorite cafe, hoping maybe she's just there working on a story.
And that's where things take an interesting turn.
It is. At the cafe, Mark finds Emma's notebook.
Wow, I bet his heart skipped a beat when he saw that.
I'm sure. It could be a lifeline, a way to understand what happened to Emma. But it could also be a Pandora's box leading them into something dangerous.
So what was inside the notebook?
Well, the first thing that jumps out is a name, Global Mining Co., along with an address.
Global Mining Co. Okay, so now we have a potential lead.
Right. And remember, journalists operate on a network of sources, whispers, leads. This Global Mining Co. could be anything. Who knows what Emma might have uncovered?
So Mark knows he can't just sit on this information. He brings in his colleague, Sarah. And together, they decide to visit this address.
Think about that. They're walking into the situation knowing very little, driven by concern for their friend, but also that journalistic instinct to uncover the truth.
It takes guts to do that, to walk into the unknown like that.
It does.
So what do they find at this address?
Well, initially it seems like a dead end. It's just an empty office.
Oh.
But then they stumble upon something incredible, another one of Emma's notebooks.
Another notebook.
Yes, and this one is filled with notes, observations, leads. It's like a window into Emma's investigation.
Wow, it's like she was leaving a trail for them to follow.
Exactly.
But what's really fascinating is that we also have Emma's perspective from this time, her own account of what she was going through.
That's right. It's like we're piecing together two sides of the same coin. We have Mark and Sarah trying to retrace her steps, and then we have Emma's own experiences, her solo investigation into Global Mining Co.
Okay, so let's delve into Emma's side of the story. What was she up to while Mark and Sarah were searching for her?
Well, picture this. She's up late, poring over documents, trying to connect the dots, sensing that something is deeply wrong, but not knowing the full picture yet.
Classic investigative journalist, driven by that need to find the truth.
Exactly. And she's following her instincts, her gut feeling that something big is being hidden.
So she's digging deep into Global Mining Co., trying to figure out what they're hiding.
Right. And it leads her to stake out an old office building. She suspects something shady is going down there.
That's risky business.
It is. But for investigative journalists, sometimes you have to take risks to get to the truth.
So what does she see?
Well, she witnesses a clandestine meeting, money changing hands. It's all very hush-hush.
Good Lord.
She manages to snap some photos before making a hasty escape.
It sounds like something out of a movie.
It does, doesn't it? But for Emma, this was real life.
And it highlights the very real dangers that journalists face, especially those who dare to challenge powerful entities.
Yeah.
So while Emma's having this close call, Mark and Sarah are still trying to piece together what happened to her. They decide to track down one of Emma's old sources, hoping to get some insight into what she might have been working on.
Sources are the lifeblood of investigative journalism. They provide that inside information, the whispers that can crack open a case.
Right. So what does this source tell them?
Well, they're obviously cautious, speaking on condition of anonymity, but they reveal something crucial. They mention that Emma had been asking a lot of questions about the CEO of Global Mining, a man named Mr. Reiner.
Mr. Reiner. Okay, so now we have a name, a face to connect to the investigation.
Right, and it raises the stakes. If Emma was asking questions about the CEO, she was likely getting close to uncovering something sensitive, something that someone might go to great lengths to protect.
This is getting intense.
It is.
So armed with this new information, Mark and Sarah decide to confront Miss Reiner directly. They find him at a cafe near his office.
And this is where things take a fascinating turn. Mr. Reiner's response, his demeanor, could tell them a lot about what they're dealing with.
So what happens? What's his reaction?
Well, he flat out denies knowing anything about him. Emma claims he has no idea who she is.
But
You're
then
right.
tells me Mark and Sarah aren't buying it.
But they're not. His dismissive attitude, his quick exit from the cafe, it all seems a little too convenient.
Like he's hiding something?
Exactly. It's like a dog that doesn't bark. Sometimes the absence of a reaction is just as telling as an overt one.
So Mr. Reiner's behavior raises more questions than it answers. What is he hiding? And how is it connected to Emma's disappearance?
Those are the million-dollar questions.
And those are the questions swirling in Mark and Sarah's minds as they continue their investigation. But before we delve into their next moves, let's return to Emma's perspective to her own investigation that was unfolding parallel to Mark and Sarah's efforts.
Remember, she's completely unaware of what they're doing, operating in isolation, driven by her own determination to uncover the truth. It's a race against time, a collision course between these two separate investigations.
Okay, so let's go back to Emma's story. What happens next?
Well, she's feeling the walls closing in, she's hit a wall in her investigation, and she's starting to get desperate.
Oh no, this doesn't sound good.
It's not. She knows something is off, but she can't quite put her finger on it.
And remember, she's doing all of this alone. No team, no backup, just her own instincts and determination.
Exactly. It's a lot of pressure. But Emma's not one to back down from a challenge.
So what does she do?
She keeps digging. She's tirelessly combing through documents late into the night, fueled by coffee and that nagging feeling that something big is being hidden.
It's that classic investigative journalist drive. They just can't let go until they find the truth.
Exactly. And that obsession leads her to stake out a cafe where she'd heard Mr. Reiner often holds meetings.
So she's going back to the source, trying to get closer to the heart of the mystery.
Exactly. And it's a classic move. Sometimes observation can reveal more than a direct confrontation. These kinds of cafes become hubs for information exchange, especially in certain circles. Who's meeting whom, what's being said, even a subtle gesture can be a clue.
So Emma's playing the waiting game, hoping to catch a glimpse of something that will help her crack the case.
Right. And she's patient, she's persistent. She sits there in that cafe pretending to work on her laptop, just watching, waiting.
And finally, her patience pays off. Mr. Reiner walks into the cafe.
He does. And I'm curious, what's your impression of him from Emma's perspective? Did anything about his demeanor stand out?
He comes across as confident, almost aloof, like he's used to being in control.
Yeah.
He's clearly someone who's used to getting what he wants.
Interesting. And who's he meeting with?
He meets with another man, and they keep their conversation very hushed, clearly aware of their surroundings.
Ah, that awareness, that caution.
Yeah.
Speaks volumes. It's just they're discussing something sensitive, something they don't want overheard.
It's like they know they're being watched.
Maybe they are. Maybe Emma's not as inconspicuous as she thinks she is.
Uh-oh, this is getting tense.
It is. And what really catches Emma's eye is a folder that Mr. Reiner is carrying. A plain, nondescript folder, but to Emma it screams secrets.
Ooh, the mysterious folder. A classic element of intrigue, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. But think about it, it's more than just a plot device. These physical objects often hold the key to unlocking a story. They represent tangible evidence, something that can't be easily dismissed or explained away.
So this folder becomes a symbol of the secrets that Global Mining Co. is hiding.
Right. It becomes the thing that Emma needs to get her hands on.
But how?
Well, as Reiner gets up to leave, folder in hand, Emma does something impulsive. She can't just let him walk away.
Oh no. What does she do?
She confronts him.
She confronts the CEO of Global Mining Co.
She does. She accuses him of hiding something, of being involved in something illegal.
Wow, that's a bold move.
It is. Perhaps reckless, but that's Emma all in, no matter the cost.
Think about the power dynamic at play here. A lone journalist challenging the CEO of a major corporation. It's a David and Goliath scenario, with Emma representing the underdog fighting for transparency.
It's a powerful image.
So how does Mr. Reiner react to this?
He's completely unfazed. He just smirks and dismisses her, casually strolling out of the cafe as if she were an insignificant annoyance.
That's chilling. That dismissiveness, that lack of concern, is more unsettling than an outright denial.
I agree. It suggests a level of arrogance, a belief that he's untouchable.
It's like he's saying, you can't touch me.
Exactly.
So Emma's left feeling defeated, but her determination to expose the truth only intensifies. Now she has a face, a name to connect to her suspicions.
It's often these setbacks, these moments of frustration that fuel the fire of an investigation. They strengthen the resolve to keep digging to find the missing pieces of the puzzle.
Meanwhile, Mark and Sarah are pursuing their own leads, unaware of Emma's encounter with Reiner. They decide to revisit the empty office that Emma had mentioned in her notebook, hoping to find something they might have missed before.
It's a common investigative technique, revisiting locations, looking at things from a different angle, hoping for a fresh perspective that might reveal something new.
So they're back at square one, retracing their steps.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
But this time their persistence pays off.
They find something.
They do. Behind a seemingly innocuous wall panel, they discover a hidden room.
A secret room. Wow. Now that's a discovery that sends shivers down your spine.
It certainly does. What does it tell us about Global Mining Co.? What lengths are they willing to go to conceal their activities?
It's a game changer. This isn't just about corporate greed anymore. This is about something much darker.
I agree. And what do they find inside this secret room?
Stacks of files, documents, records, a treasure trove of information related to Global Mining's operations. It's the breakthrough they'd been hoping for, but it also confirms their worst fears.
Imagine the feeling. The adrenaline rush of uncovering something hidden, mixed with the weight of realizing that this is bigger than they initially thought.
It must be overwhelming.
It is. And as they begin to sift through the documents, they uncover evidence of illegal mining practices, environmental violations, and even potential connections to government corruption. It's a web of deceit that goes far deeper than they could have imagined.
This is what Emma was risking her life to expose. It was no longer just a story about a missing journalist. It was about a system of power that would stop at nothing to protect its interests.
And it makes you wonder, what happened to Emma? Is she safe? Is she still out there?
Those are the questions that keep me up at night, and unfortunately we'll have to wait for part 2 of our deep dive to get some answers.
I'm on the edge of my seat already.
Me too.
Last we left off, Mark and Sarah had just stumbled upon this secret room filled with incriminating files about Global Mining Co. It's like opening a Pandora's box and realizing just how deep this rabbit hole goes.
Right. And knowing that Emma was digging into this alone, it really raises the stakes.
Absolutely. Now they're not just uncovering a story, they're racing against time, trying to find their friend before it's too late.
It's a whole new level of pressure.
Exactly. So as they start going through these documents, a pattern emerges. Global Mining Co. isn't just bending the rules, they're systematically breaking them.
We're not just talking about some minor infractions here.
Right. No, this is serious stuff. We're talking environmental damage, potential corruption, a complete disregard for human life. And it's all being orchestrated from the top.
It makes you think about Emma and the courage it took for her to go up against a company like this,
Yeah.
knowing the risks involved.
Exactly. Investigative journalists often operate on a gut feeling, a sense that something is wrong, and they're willing to put themselves in harm's way to expose the truth.
It's a dangerous job.
It is,
Yeah.
but it's also essential. Someone has to hold the powerful accountable.
Absolutely. So back to Mark and Sarah. They're now sifting through this mountain of evidence, trying to make sense of it all and connect it to Emma's disappearance.
Right. And at the same time, we have to remember that Emma is still out there somewhere, likely following her own leads, completely unaware of what Mark and Sarah have uncovered.
It's a terrifying thought. She's alone in the dark, going up against a powerful enemy.
It is. And it highlights the isolating nature of investigative work, the need for secrecy, the constant fear of compromise. It takes a toll.
So while Mark and Sarah are dealing with the weight of their discovery, Emma's still out there navigating this dangerous landscape on her own.
And we pick up her story with her feeling increasingly frustrated. Her investigation has hit a wall. She knows global mining is dirty, but she can't prove it.
It's got to be a feeling of helplessness, like being so close to the truth but just out of reach.
Exactly. And remember, she's been working tirelessly for days, fueled by coffee and adrenaline.
Burning the candle at both ends.
Yes, and it's taking its toll. But Emma's not one to give up easily.
So what does she do? How does she break through this wall?
Well, she decides to go back to the source. She remembers the cafe where she saw Mr. Reiner meeting that other man, and she decides to stake it out again.
Ah, so she's hoping to catch another glimpse of something that might give her a lead.
Exactly. It's a long shot. But at this point, she's willing to try anything.
So she's back in that cafe, pretending to work, blending in with the crowd.
Right. Just waiting, patiently watching. And after hours of waiting, Mr. Reiner finally walks in.
It's like a scene from a spy movie.
It is. And this time, Emma's determined to not let him slip away.
So she follows him.
Not exactly. She waits until he leaves the cafe, and then she follows him at a distance.
Ooh, this is risky.
Very risky. But Emma's desperate for answers.
So where does he lead her?
He leads her to a nondescript office building. It's not the global mining headquarters, it's something else entirely.
Oh boy. This is getting interesting.
It is Emma watches as Mr. Reiner enters the building, and she decides to follow him inside.
She's going deeper into the lion's den.
She is. She's taking a huge risk. But she's driven by that need to know the truth.
So what happens inside the building?
Well, Emma manages to slip past security, and she finds herself in a dimly lit hallway.
This sounds creepy.
It is. She can hear voices coming from one of the rooms, and she cautiously approaches.
She's like a detective piecing together a puzzle.
Exactly. And as she gets closer, she realizes that she recognizes one of the voices. It's Mr. Reiner.
What's he talking about?
He's talking about a deal, a big deal.
Yeah.
And it involves something called Project Shadow.
Project Shadow. What is that?
Emma doesn't know, but it sounds ominous.
It does. And she needs to find out more.
She does, but just as she's about to try to get a closer look, she hears footsteps coming down the hallway.
Uh-oh. She's been spotted?
She thinks so. She quickly ducks into a nearby room just as someone walks past.
That was close.
Too close. Emma knows she needs to get out of there, but she's not leaving empty-handed.
So she grabs something. Evidence.
Exactly. She sees a file folder sitting on a desk, and she quickly grabs it and stuffs it into her bag.
And then she makes her escape.
She does, just in the nick of time.
Wow. That was a close call.
It was, and it's a turning point in Emma's investigation. Now she has something concrete to work with.
This Project Shadow folder could be the key to unlocking the whole mystery.
It could be, but it also puts Emma in even greater danger.
Right. Now she has something that Global Mining Co. will stop at nothing to get back.
Exactly. The stakes have just been raised.
And meanwhile, Mark and Sarah are still poring over the documents they found in that secret room trying to connect the dots.
Right. And they're getting closer to the truth, but they're also running out of time. We left off with Emma making a daring escape from that mysterious office building with a folder labeled Project Shadow tucked safely in her bag.
Talk about a cliffhanger.
Right. And meanwhile, Mark and Sarah are still digging through that mountain of evidence from the secret room.
It's like they're working on two separate pieces of the same puzzle.
Exactly. And the closer they get to putting those pieces together, the more they realize just how dangerous this situation is.
Because they're starting to see the full picture of what Global Mining Co. is capable of.
Right. They're uncovering evidence of intimidation, threats, even violence, all to silence anyone who gets too close to their secrets.
It's a dark reality. The lengths that some powerful entities will go to protect their interests.
And it makes you think about Emma out there on her own with no idea of the danger she's in.
Exactly. She's walking a tightrope, completely unaware of how high it is.
And as Mark and Sarah dig deeper, they start to uncover a pattern of Global Mining Co., using shell companies and offshore accounts to funnel money and resources.
Classic signs of corruption and money laundering.
Exactly. It's a complex web of deceit designed to hide their illegal activities.
And to make matters worse, they find evidence that Global Mining Co. has been bribing government officials to turn a blind eye to their operations.
It's a classic case of corporate greed and corruption reaching the highest levels of power.
It's sickening, and it makes Emma's disappearance all the more unsettling.
Absolutely. Now they're not just dealing with a rogue corporation, they're up against a system that's rigged to protect the powerful.
It's a David and Goliath situation.
Yeah.
And the stakes have never been higher.
Right. And as the clock keeps ticking, Mark and Sarah know they need to find Emma fast.
They have to use every resource at their disposal, every contact, every lead.
Exactly. They reach out to their network of sources, pore over every document, and follow every trail that Emma left behind.
It's a race against time.
And it leads them down a dangerous path. They start receiving anonymous threats, their phones are tapped, and they feel like they're constantly being watched.
It's like they've stepped into a spy thriller.
It is. And it's clear that Global Mining Co. is determined to stop them at any cost.
But Mark and Sarah aren't giving up. They're too close to the truth, and they won't rest until they find Emma.
They're fueled by a sense of justice and a deep loyalty to their friend.
And their persistence finally pays off.
Yeah.
They manage to track down the man that Mr. Reiner met at the cafe. Remember him?
Yes. The one with the hushed conversation.
Right. And after some persuasion, he agrees to talk.
And what he reveals is shocking.
He tells them about a secret mining operation that Global Mining Co. is running in a remote part of the world.
An operation that's not only illegal, but also incredibly dangerous.
And he reveals that Emma was getting close to exposing this operation.
Which explains why Global Mining Co. was so desperate to silence her.
It all starts to make sense.
The pieces of the puzzle are finally falling into place, but there's still one piece missing, Emma.
Right. Where is she? And is she safe?
Those are the questions that haunt Mark and Sarah as they continue their search.
And sadly, that's where our deep dive ends. For now,
It's a story that's both gripping and unsettling. A reminder of the power of investigative journalism and the risks that come with uncovering the truth.
and while we don't have all the answers yet, Emma's story is a powerful testament to the courage and determination of those who seek to hold the powerful accountable.
It's a story that stays with you long after you've heard it.
And it leaves us with a sense of hope that even in the darkest of times, the truth has a way of finding its way to the light.
We can only hope that justice will prevail and that Emma will be found safe and sound.
Until then, let's all do our part to support investigative journalism and to fight for a world where the truth can never be silenced.